open wide.
Ready?
Here comes your chunk of Trump.
It's my favorite food.
With your first bite, here's Mark Thompson.
I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful.
When David K. Johnston joins in the second hour, I'll ask him a lot about this, because to me, it's a serious warning. But I'll just reiterate the news that broke yesterday, that President-elect Trump is settling with ABC News on this defamation case that he brought against the network. They're getting $16 million, the Trump people. And you know the story, just to summarize it in a minute or less. Essentially, George Stephanopoulos referred to the fact that in the E. Jean Carroll case, Trump was convicted. And Stephanopoulos actually referred to a Washington Post headline, which mentioned or advertised the fact that the judge had said that Trump was guilty of just that. Used that word in the Washington Post headline. And so when Trump was hit with that word, that is to say, heard Stephanopoulos use it in an interview in which Trump was mentioned and talked about, again, as having been guilty of that, Trump launched this defamation case. Now,
because the truth is, he was never convicted of the R word. He was found legally liable for it in a civil case.
But the judge in that case actually said, you know, this constitutes the R word. Mm-hmm. So the other thing that's very important here, regardless of that part and Stephanopoulos, is that you need to, in a defamation case, prove knowledge and of malice. Like, you have to prove that the party was saying this, writing this as a malicious act, and they were aware of what they were doing. And it's likely, and that's why I mentioned that Stephanopoulos mentioned the Washington Post headline, it's likely that Stephanopoulos just had no malice about it. It was a simple reference trying to correct the record. So, point is, ABC would have won that case. And what's particularly concerning is that ABC is Disney. We talk about this from time to time on the show. And I mention it because as a media company, ABC News is just part of what they do. I mean, it seems massive. They have bureaus all over the world and correspondents all over the world. And even in this time when people are cutting the cord, ABC News is still a very powerful organization. But when you compare them to Disney and all of the holdings, from theme parks to motion pictures to television series, you realize, oh my God, ABC News is just a sliver. And you could see that ABC could do to ABC News what NBC had happen. Remember, Comcast said, we're not going to deal with NBC News and CNBC and MSNBC. We're now farming them out as a separate entity to protect themselves. You see how, from a C-suite standpoint, they're reorganizing to be in a better position and a more favorable position with the new incoming administration, given the fact that the new incoming administration is so bent on revenge. And so when those Disney people, and those Disney people, those are big bad lawyers, man. They have the toughest lawyers in Hollywood, Disney, and the toughest lawyers in media. When they say, you know what, just cut them a check. Mm-hmm. That's a sign. That's a sign. It's not worth it to us, Disney and ABC. It's not worth it to us to get on bad footing and continue on bad footing with the incoming president. And that's what I think motivated their decision. Otherwise, why do you do it? You're likely going to win the case. So Trump gets $16 million, $1 million in legal fees, and then $15 million paid to, again, some entity that is it's a Trump institute. It's not institute, that's not the word, but it's essentially it's a holding company for a lot of these Trump monies that come in this way. So now the scary part, because Trump has now turned toward other media companies and is threatening lawsuits. The poll that came out in the Des Moines Register, remember right before the election, there was a poll and all the Kamala Harris people were very excited because the poll from a leading pollster, maybe the most respected pollster we heard, showed that Trump had lost his lead in Iowa and that Kamala Harris, while maybe not winning Iowa, was within 4 points of Trump. Isn't that what it was, Kim? I'm just working from memory.
I think it was close, and it was like just a couple days before the election.
Right.
Yeah.
So now Trump is saying he wants to sue the Des Moines Register because it put out that poll of Iowa voters that showed him losing the November election to Kamala Harris. He made these comments at his Mar-a-Lago estate at that press conference, and he said he'd bring a lawsuit against the Iowa newspaper because he believed the poll was, quote, fraud, and it was election interference. The reality is that this would get thrown out. I mean, and by the way, the poll was way off. Remember, Trump won by 13 points in Iowa.
Mm-hmm. And why can't that be enough? I mean, the pollster likely didn't manipulate the data to go against Trump. That's what he's alleging?
Yeah, I don't know what he's alleging. He didn't say that, but what he's this is what he said. She's got me right always. She's a very good pollster. She knows what she was doing. And that's what maybe suggests that he felt that it was manipulated in some way. But he's not blaming her. He's blaming the Des Moines Register. And a spokesperson for the Register's parent company, Gannett, said that the newspaper has, quote, acknowledged that the Seltzer Des Moines Register pre-election poll did not reflect the ultimate margin of President Trump's Election Day victory. And they've released the poll's full demographics, crosstabs, weighted and unweighted data, and also a technical explanation from pollster Ann Seltzer, who is now, as Tony just showed you on the screen, is retired from the polling business. But to the point, Trump has now turned his turret of revenge on this. These are cases that he shouldn't even, win. He should never bring them to a court because he won't win. But look at what happened with ABC. They settled. Des Moines Register, I'm sure they're scared. I don't know that this case will ever see the light of day. But it's a real price that you'll pay for challenging Donald Trump. And he's taken that degree of threat. It's a legal threat in the case of the media companies. As you know, he's even talked about on the campaign trail leading up to his election, going after the media companies, feeling as though they've become politicized. And now he is threatening revenge on Republican lawmakers who don't approve his cabinet choices. So the idea is that if you vote against my cabinet choices, if you make this difficult for me to get Pete Hegseth to the Pentagon, to Tulsi Gabbard, to the intelligence agencies, that we will go after you. And the Republican Party, now completely in control of Trump, on some level has to be afraid that this guy will follow through. And finally, a quick note on Donald Trump and New York City Mayor Eric Adams. As you know, Eric Adams has been indicted on federal election charges. So this is important because they're federal, which means that a pardon could expunge them. A pardon could free Adams from any issues with it. He delivered in his remarks at Mar-a-Lago a mention that he's considering pardoning New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Yeah, I would, Trump told reporters when asked if he was open to the possibility. I think he was treated pretty unfairly. It seems like being upgraded on an airplane many years ago, apparently alluding to Adams having allegedly gone on numerous free luxury trips paid for by the Turkish government. I mean, I know everybody's been upgraded, Trump said. They see you're all stars and they say, I want to upgrade that person from NBC. I'm going to upgrade him. And that would mean you'd spend the rest of your life in prison? But Trump conceded that he doesn't know all the facts in the case. He then speculated that perhaps Adams was targeted because he essentially went against what was happening with the migrants coming in. Adams has said that he will cooperate with the deportations in New York. So again, this indictment, it's not over just some luxury trips. There's a lot there. And if you look at it, I mean, it adds up to a ton of money. And illegal campaign contributions from foreign nationals and bribes and accepting all of this for political favors. Adams is in trouble. And so a pardon from Trump would definitely make a difference. And he's saying he'll consider it. And finally, do you have that montage on the economy? Tony, you see it there in the rundown? Here we go. Here's Donald Trump on the stump and how times have changed.
We will end inflation and make America affordable again. We're going to get the prices down. We have to get them down. It's too much. Groceries, cars, everything. We're going to get the prices down.
But prices will come down. You just watch. They'll come down, and they'll come down fast, not only with insurance, with everything.
So tomorrow, I will end inflation. We will cut your taxes, end inflation, slash your prices. I will end inflation. End inflation. Slash your prices. To rapidly reduce inflation, I will end inflation very quickly. You know, end inflation. Slash your prices. We will cut your taxes. End inflation. Slash your prices.
We're going to get your prices down. Now we're bringing the cost down.
Yeah, there you go. Now, Trump is saying to Time Magazine that he likely won't be able to lower prices.
What?
Yeah. Quote, it's hard to bring things down once they're up. Yeah.
Very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have looked...
Didn't that as the not the crux of the whole election, the price of eggs, the price of things at the grocery store, the price of gas, and now he says it's hard to bring all that down, can't do it?
Yeah, if just Democrats would have talked more about the issues that matter, talk more about it, being like lied through their teeth, like this guy, it's just crazy. It really is crazy. So that's the situation there. Tom SSS says, I'm about to book a flight overseas. Should I wait till Trump lowers the prices before I book it? I'm about to...
No. Not happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't wait for that. I wouldn't wait for that. But it is interesting that we try to plan on stuff that these guys say. When these guys say things, we try to make plans around it, you know. But with Trump, you really just can't, you know. He says a lot of stuff. I mentioned yesterday that if you want to see a lot of Trump's biggest donors, just look at the people who are populating his administration, his cabinet officials, ambassadorships. And by the way, ambassadorships are oftentimes given to people who are Democrats and Republicans who are big donors. But here you see people who are in critical condition, critical positions, I should say. They are in critical positions as a result, it would seem, just of their support of Donald Trump, based on no real background in the field in which they are likely going to manage some agency or some regulatory body. You've got Musk, of course, who also populates that world, and in some way, I think, it has a co-presidency. I think what I see from Donald Trump and Elon Musk's relationship is Trump excited that he has Elon on board, and Elon, who has almost no regulatory restrictions that he has to pay attention to, getting even fewer now because he basically has mobbed up the whole game. And so legitimately EPA and tax issues that Trump has been saddled with Elon Musk, they will be erased. I mean, Musk had real problems. Musk had real problems with the government saying, hey, your SpaceX stuff is fouling these delicate, fragile ecosystems. You know, these rocket launches and discharges, they're not neutral when it comes to environmental impact. And so the EPA was saying, hey, you need to do some things to mitigate this problem. But the reality is he's not going to have to worry about any of that. So what minimal things he was dealing with before, he won't have to deal with anymore. But look at the rest of his administration, and you have 5 members of his original cabinet having donated nearly $8 million to his committees or to the major outside groups supporting Donald Trump. I mentioned to you Linda McMahon. You know, she's going to be running the Department of Education because she is a huge donor to Donald Trump. The sums spent to aid Trump in 2024 far exceed the donations that Joe Biden's cabinet members contributed to help him win the White House in 2020, according to the Federal Election Commission. A dozen members of Biden's cabinet reported donations to his campaign or major super PACs, giving less than $100,000 in total. This administration is the billionaire administration. It's the oligarch administration. And be clear, this country has always flirted with an oligarchy. We've always had our politicians, sadly, in the modern age, succumb to pay to play on some level because the Supreme Court has ruled that corporate money is speech. And so all of this corporate money and the typical lobbying that accompanies it does affect politician and policy, right? But what we're seeing now is the oligarchy coming out of the woodwork, coming out of the shadows. And so you have a naked oligarchical control of America. That's a tremendous concern to me.
It should be a game show. Buy a job. Like it should be right? What position of power and influence can you buy today? Linda
McMahon, I'm just looking. She donated $21.2 million to the Make America Great Again, Inc., the main Trump-affiliated super PAC. Other 7-figure donors, Howard Lutnick, who Trump has serving as the Commerce Secretary, Scott Bessent, the hedge fund executive Trump has selected to oversee the Treasury Department, former Georgia Senator Kelly Loeffler, his choice to head the Small Business Administration, Loeffler's husband Jeff Sprecher, he was a major donor, $2 million contributed to the pro-Trump MAGA Inc. super PAC. And he's the CEO of the Intercontinental Exchange that owns the New York Stock Exchange. He was at Trump's side when Trump rang the opening bell last Thursday. So the billionaires and the staggering sums that have moved into this administration, scary. And what will happen is that they'll get the legislation they want. And Trump has said it. Trump has even said, give us $1 billion and we'll remove the regulations for you. It's an astounding thing.
How much does it cost to trash the planet? How much does it cost? How much is it worth? Wow.
That's your chunk of Trump.
That's it for this edition.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
But make sure to join us again next time
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
for another chunk of Trump.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.